The cameras were flashing, the palace gates were lined with spectators, and inside those historic walls, something happened that no one saw coming. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped forward wearing what many are now calling the Queen's final tiara, the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't just another royal appearance. It wasn't just another glittering jewel. It was a message about power, a message about legacy, and perhaps a message about the future of the crown. Within hours, headlines exploded. Commentators dissected every angle. Social media erupted with comparisons. And quietly, behind closed doors, whispers began to swirl about Camilla, Queen Camilla, and whether this moment had cut deeper than anyone expected. But to understand why this single tiara moment sent shockwaves through royal watchers worldwide, we need go back. Because this story isn't just about a jewel. It's about obsession. It's about image. It's about survival. And it begins with a question. Why can't we look away from the royal family? The royal obsession. Why we can't look away. For centuries, monarchies were about distance, mystery, divine right. But today, royals are global celebrities. They trend on social media. Their outfits sell out in minutes. Their facial expressions are analyzed frame by frame. From the balcony of Buckingham Palace to viral TikTok edits, royalty has become entertainment. And we are the audience. But why? Because they represent something bigger than politics, bigger than celebrity. They are living symbols of history, fairy tales walking in real time. And in a world where everything feels uncertain, crowns feel permanent. That's why when Catherine appears in a historic tiara once worn by a queen, it isn't just fashion. It's symbolism. And symbolism in the royal family is never accidental. Every brooch, every sash, every jewel has a story. When Catherine stepped out wearing what insiders describe as one of the late Queen's most emotionally significant pieces, the internet didn't just see diamonds. They saw transition. They saw succession. They saw the future. And that's where things get complicated, because there is another queen now, Camilla. And in royal life, symbolism can feel like strategy. There was a time when the royal family existed behind an invisible wall. The public rarely heard their voices. Their personalities were hidden behind formal portraits and carefully written statements. Mystery was their greatest protection. But everything changed with television. Suddenly, the public could see them, hear them, judge them. Moments that were once private became public spectacle. Coronations were broadcast. Weddings became global events. And every gesture, every glance could be replayed endlessly. This transformation turned royals into something entirely new. Not just rulers, but celebrities. And no place symbolized the shift more than Buckingham Palace. Once a distant fortress of power, now the backdrop of global media frenzy. Over time, the royal family learned something critical. Visibility could strengthen their relevance, but it also made them vulnerable, because with visibility came comparison. And comparison created hierarchy in the public eye. Who looks more confident? Who looks more loved? Who looks more like the future? These questions don't appear in official documents, but they dominate headlines. And nowhere is this more visible than in the relationship between Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Camilla, Queen Consort. On paper, their roles are clear. Camilla is queen. Catherine is princess. But public perception doesn't always follow official titles. Catherine represents youth, continuity, the next generation. Camilla represents endurance, survival, a woman who spent decades in controversy before finally wearing the crown. Both women carry enormous weight, but only one represents the future. And in monarchy, the future always casts a shadow over the present. This is why symbolic moments like wearing a historic tiara matter more than they seem, because jewels in the royal family are never just decoration. They are signals. Signals about trust. Signals about approval. Signals about legacy. Many of the royal family's most important jewels were personally associated with Queen Elizabeth II, a woman who understood symbolism better than anyone. She knew that what she wore could reassure a nation. She knew that what she passed down could shape the future. So, when Catherine appeared wearing a piece deeply connected to the late Queen's personal legacy, royal watchers didn't just see beauty. They saw endorsement, they saw continuity, and they saw something else. A quiet shift in power. Because standing beside Catherine is the man destined to be king, Prince William. Together, they represent the monarchy's next chapter. And every public appearance they make brings that reality closer. But for Camilla, this transition carries emotional weight. Because her journey to becoming queen was anything but easy, she fought years of public criticism, years of comparison, years of being seen as an outsider. And now, just as she has reached the pinnacle of royal life, the spotlight is already moving forward. Toward Catherine, toward William, toward the future. And history has shown that in the royal family, the future can arrive faster than anyone expects. Long before Catherine ever wore a tiara, there was Diana, and nothing about the monarchy has ever been the same since. When Princess Diana first stepped into the public eye, she wasn't just young. She wasn't just beautiful. She was different. She smiled more. She connected more. She felt human. In a royal system built on distance and tradition, Diana brought emotion. She shook hands. She hugged strangers. She looked people directly in the eye, and the world fell in love with her. But that love came at a cost. Because Diana wasn't just admired by the public, she was protected by them. Every outfit she wore became global news. Every appearance drew massive crowds. And every jewel she placed on her head carried deeper meaning than anyone inside the palace could control. One of the most powerful symbols she ever wore was a tiara, not just as decoration, but as identity. When Diana wore royal jewels, she transformed them. She made them relatable, personal, emotional. People didn't just see a princess, they saw their princess. And in doing so, Diana unintentionally changed the balance of power forever. Because for the first time, public love became stronger than royal hierarchy. This created something the monarchy had never faced before, comparison based on emotional connection. And Diana's presence cast a long shadow, especially over Camilla. For years, Camilla was seen not as a royal figure, but as a symbol of betrayal. Fair or not, public perception hardened. Diana became the people's princess. Camilla became the outsider. The monarchy itself struggled to navigate this emotional storm. Even after Diana's tragic death in 1997, her influence didn't fade. It grew. Her legacy lived on through her sons, through Prince William, and through the woman he would eventually marry. Because when Catherine entered royal life, many saw echoes of Diana, not in personality alone, but in presence. Graceful, calm, magnetic, and most importantly, loved. Catherine understood something fundamental about modern royalty. Visibility builds trust. She didn't rush. She didn't demand attention. She earned it slowly, and over time, the public began to see her not just as William's wife, but as the future queen. Meanwhile, Camilla's role evolved too. Over decades, she rebuilt her image. She showed loyalty, stability, commitment to duty. Eventually, the public softened, and when King Charles III ascended the throne, Camilla became queen. It was the culmination of a lifetime of waiting, a lifetime of surviving. But even at the height of that achievement, something remained beyond control: public emotion. Because the monarchy doesn't exist only in law, it exists in perception. And perception can shift in a single moment: a glance, a gesture, or a tiara. When Catherine appeared, wearing one of the late Queen's most meaningful pieces, it didn't just reflect beauty. It reflected trust. And trust in the royal family is everything. Because jewels aren't simply inherited, they are entrusted. And when the public sees the trust placed in someone new, they begin to imagine what comes next. Not immediately, not officially, but inevitably. And that quiet inevitability is what makes moments like these so powerful, because they remind everyone, including Camilla, that the monarchy is always moving forward. Just when the monarchy believed it had stabilized, everything changed again. Because stability in the royal family is often an illusion. And the arrival of Meghan Markle marked one of the most disruptive chapters in modern royal history. From the moment she appeared beside Prince Harry, Meghan brought global attention unlike anything the monarchy had experienced in decades. She wasn't just an actress. She was modern, independent, American, and most importantly, she represented change. Their wedding wasn't simply a ceremony. It was a global event watched by millions, blending centuries-old tradition with a modern cultural shift. For a moment, it felt like the monarchy had found a way to reinvent itself for a new generation. But behind the scenes, tensions were already forming, because the monarchy is built on structure, hierarchy, and patience, and Meghan's rapid rise created a new dynamic, one that placed intense pressure on everyone around her, including Catherine. For the first time, Catherine was no longer the newest royal woman. The public attention that had once been entirely hers was now shared. Every appearance became a comparison, every smile analyzed, every interaction scrutinized, but Catherine responded in a way that revealed her understanding of royal survival. She remained steady. She didn't compete. She endured. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's relationship with the institution grew more complicated. Media pressure intensified. Stories leaked. Rumors spread. And then came the moment that shook the monarchy to its core. Their departure. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, it wasn't just a personal decision. It was a public rupture. It exposed fractures within the palace that had been carefully hidden for generations. The royal family suddenly faced something it had always feared, loss of control over its own narrative. And with that loss came uncertainty, because the monarchy depends on unity, continuity, predictability. Without it, the public begins asking dangerous questions. Who's really in charge? Who represents the future? Who carries the legacy forward? In the aftermath of that departure, the monarchy began consolidating its image around stability, around figures the public trusted, and no figure embodied that stability more than Catherine. Her appearances became more significant, more symbolic, more watched. Every time she wore historic jewels, it reinforced something deeper, continuity with the past and assurance for the future. And every time she stood beside William, the message became clearer. This is the next chapter. This is the next era. For Camilla, this shift was complex, because she had finally reached the role she had waited decades to achieve. She was queen. She had earned her place beside King Charles. But history was repeating itself. Just as Diana once captured the public's imagination in ways the palace couldn't control, Catherine was now doing the same, not through rebellion, but through presence. And in monarchy, presence is power. Which brings us back to the tiara, because when Catherine wore that final, deeply symbolic piece associated with the late queen, it wasn't just about honoring the past. It was about signaling the future. And in that moment, the world didn't just see the Princess of Wales. They saw something else, something inevitable, a future queen. Palaces are designed to look unshakable. Tall gates, stone walls, perfect choreography. But behind those walls, the royal family is still human. And humans feel things they cannot always show. When Catherine appeared wearing what many insiders describe as one of the late queen's most emotionally significant tiaras, the public saw elegance. But inside the palace, it was a reminder that time is moving, a reminder that reigns are temporary, a reminder that succession is inevitable. The late Queen Elizabeth II was the anchor of the monarchy for over 70 years. She represented stability in a world that changed rapidly around her. Her jewels were not just adornments. They were symbols of duty and continuity. When she passed, something shifted forever. Her son, King Charles III, stepped into a role he had waited for his entire life. By his side stood Camilla, once controversial, now crowned. For Camilla, the journey to becoming queen was a marathon. She endured decades of criticism. She kept her head down. She focused on duty. Slowly, public opinion softened. Becoming queen wasn't just a title. It was vindication. But monarchy doesn't pause for emotional victories, because as soon as one chapter begins, another is already forming. Standing directly behind Charles and Camilla is Prince William, the heir apparent, and beside him stands Catherine, young, composed, deeply admired. When Catherine wears a historically significant tiara once associated with the late Queen, royal watchers interpret it as more than fashion. They interpret it as trust, and trust within royal circles is sacred. Jewels are part of what is known as the royal collection. They are loaned, not owned. When a piece closely associated with the former monarch appears on the head of the future queen, it sends a quiet but powerful message. Approval, continuity, preparation. It doesn't diminish Camilla's status. She is queen, but symbolism is emotional, and emotion drives public perception. Imagine the psychological weight of that moment. After finally reaching the pinnacle of royal life, the spotlight begins to shift forward. The cameras linger longer on Catherine. Headlines speculate about the next era. Commentators debate who the public connects with most. Camilla may never publicly acknowledge jealousy. Royal discipline would never allow that. But human emotions don't disappear just because titles change. And inside palace walls, comparisons are unavoidable. Every gesture is measured, every appearance coordinated. Even seating arrangements carry meaning. The monarchy survives because it understands optics, and optics in this case are clear. The future is being prepared, carefully, deliberately, and visibly. The tiara moment wasn't dramatic because of conflict. It was dramatic because of timing, because it reminded everyone that no reign lasts forever, and that even queens must eventually pass the spotlight. The monarchy and the media have always had a complicated relationship. They need each other, and they fear each other. Without media coverage, the royal family risks fading into irrelevance. Their influence depends on visibility, public appearances, photographs, headlines. But media attention also creates pressure. It magnifies every moment. It creates narratives, sometimes accurate, sometimes exaggerated, that can shape public perception for years. And perception in the royal world can be more powerful than reality. For decades, the royal family carefully controlled its image. Statements were formal. Access was limited. Mystery was maintained. But everything changed with the rise of the internet. Suddenly, the monarchy no longer controlled the narrative. The public did. Social media users analyze royal appearances in real time. Millions of viewers examine posture, expressions, and interactions. A single photograph can spark global debate within minutes. This is exactly what happened when Catherine, Princess of Wales, appeared wearing the late Queen's symbolic tiara. Within hours, images spread across every platform. Royal commentators began asking questions. Was this simply tradition, or was it transition? Media outlets published side-by-side comparisons of Catherine and Camilla, Queen consort, not to diminish Camilla's authority, but to explore the monarchy's future. Because the public is always looking forward, always wondering what comes next, and the media amplifies that curiosity. This creates an invisible tension inside the royal family. Not open conflict, but awareness. Awareness that every appearance contributes to a larger narrative. That narrative currently centers on generational change. King Charles III represents continuity with the past. Prince William represents the bridge. And Catherine represents the future queen. The media knows this. The public feels this. And moments like the tiara appearance reinforce it visually, because visuals are powerful. A photograph doesn't need explanation. It communicates instantly. Confidence, elegance, preparation. For Camilla, media comparisons are nothing new. She has spent decades under scrutiny. She understands the role. She understands the cost. But that doesn't make the spotlight easier. Because the media rarely focuses on the present alone. It focuses on succession. It focuses on legacy. It focuses on what comes next. And in doing so, it gradually shifts public attention forward. Not suddenly, but steadily. This is how royal eras change, not with announcements, but with images, not with declarations, but with symbols. And the tiara was one of the most powerful symbols the public had seen since the late Queen's passing. It wasn't just jewelry. It was visual storytelling. It was continuity made visible. And it reminded the world that while the current queen holds the crown, the future queen is already being prepared.